Hey, Ken Goldie here. It's nice to talk to you again. I want to talk today about this thing that I call barriers. If you've seen one of my presentations on the Fast Way, you might have heard me talk about barriers, which are ways that we think and feel and speak and act that we're not aware of. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the idea of having thoughts and feelings that they're not aware of, subconscious things going on inside us that we're not really in touch with. But how can we be speaking in ways that we're not aware of? How can we be acting in ways that we're not aware of? But that's the whole idea with barriers. Barriers are behaviors that we create very early in life that get us some success. They provide some benefit to us, but they also limit us from fully engaging in activities because we don't want to risk the success that we already have by taking on new behaviors that may not bring the same success. So I define barriers as subconscious, negative, patterned thoughts and behaviors that work against you achieving your desired results in life. Subconscious meaning we're not aware of them. Negative meaning if they were working, they wouldn't be barriers. Patterned thoughts and behaviors meaning things that we are exhibiting regularly, but that aren't necessarily leading us towards the goal accomplishment that we want. So in the Fast Way, I provide many opportunities to actually develop a practice for discovering your barriers and identifying them and working through them so that you can create results and success in areas that you previously haven't or have been struggling with by getting through these subconscious negative pattern thoughts and behaviors that are limiting you. And I put it into a sentence form. The sentence sounds something like this. I have to do a certain thing or not do a certain thing, or be a certain way or not be a certain way, in order to avoid some consequence or achieve some benefit. And I know that sounds kind of complicated, but in real life, it sounds sort of like I need to always be very stern with the people that work for me in order to show them that I'm in charge and I'm a good leader. So you can imagine somebody who grows up feeling that sternness gets results, but without recognizing that sternness also holds people at bay and prevents people from bringing conflict or new suggestions or contrary opinions and ideas to them. So this person may be getting results in some area by always being stern with their employees and showing them that they're in charge, but also not building and fostering an openness for creativity and new ideas to flourish. So the results are kept in a certain arena. A couple of examples from real life, if you ever followed tennis. You may have watched John McEnroe play tennis or heard about John McEnroe. From 1970 to 1985, John McEnroe was undeniably the best tennis player on the face of the earth, arguably the best tennis player who'd ever lived at the time. He won more than 100 Grand Slam tournaments all over the world, every open, singles, doubles. He was the man in tennis, but he wasn't really as famous for his amazing tennis skills as he was for the breakdowns and tantrums and screaming and yelling and throwing balls and breaking rackets and yelling at line judges in all of his tournaments throughout the world, throughout his career. He got fined over and over and over. Tennis couldn't break him of this. I've never met John McEnroe, but I look at his life and I think, what was going on with him? Playing great tennis on the court at Wimbledon and the US Open and all over the world. Why did he feel he needed to fight so hard in those matches that he actually shut down the matches, and all the fans who came and paid to see great tennis weren't getting to see great tennis because John McEnroe was shutting down these matches through being petulant and angry? Now, I don't know what the actual answer is. Guessing it could have been something like he had a coach who never thought he would be great, so he had to prove to himself over and over and over throughout his lifetime that he was great because inside he never believed it. Or maybe somebody modeled just the need to be right for him, and the sentence may have sounded somewhere inside of him like, I need to prove I'm right or people will take advantage of me. So here he is on his tennis court playing great tennis, but when there's an argument over whether or not a ball was in or out, he needs to prove he's right more than get on with the great tennis. And you can take it into the business world. If you ever knew the story of Henry Ford Jr., this wasn't the son of Henry Ford, it was the grandson of Henry Ford. His father was Edsel in the middle of them there. Henry Ford Jr. inherited the Ford Motor Company. I mean, one of the most powerful, wealthy positions on the face of the earth in the 1950s and 60s, who was also famous for never allowing anyone to challenge his position. And history pretty much looks back at Henry Ford Jr. as a man who felt insecure about his position because he didn't inherit it. He didn't come up through the ranks and learn the automotive industry through working in it, or get an education in sales or marketing or being an executive. So he never felt quite confident in his role, but also wasn't able to face that. So became autocratic, to the point where there was a guy named Lee Iacocca, who you may have heard of, who did go to school and learn marketing and work his way up through the Ford Motor Company from a very low position, being president of the motor company. He had ideas like the Mustang, famously arguing with Ford all the time. And in the late 1960s, made Ford a $6 billion profit in the 1960s. But it was Iacocca who got all the credit. Time Magazine, Newsweek Magazine, television news, radio, the man who made Ford. What do you think Henry Ford did? He fired him. He fired the guy who made him the most profitable car company on the face of the earth because he couldn't deal with people thinking that somebody else did it instead of him. His barrier may have sounded like, I have to prove to myself and others that I am capable of running Ford, when inside he didn't believe it. You can see it in personal relationships where somebody may date for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or 6 weeks and then push the other person away. And they'll make excuses for pushing the other person away, like, I'm just not really into that person. But when it's a pattern behavior over many, many relationships, that person might one day get in touch with a sentence like, I can only get so close to people because if I get too close, I risk being hurt later, and therefore cut off the relationship before it gets too deep. We can have barriers in all arenas of life: our personal lives, our families, our relationships with our children and our extended families, our finances, our health, pattern behaviors of overeating or not exercising or over-exercising. Somebody who's totally built out muscularly, like overboard, thinking in some fashion, I need to show myself as being physically strong so that people think that I'm strong if inside they feel weak or insignificant. Not saying every bodybuilder suffers from that barrier. Everybody's barriers manifest in different ways. So I encourage you to start looking for pattern thoughts and behaviors. When you have a behavior that you've done 2 or 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and not gotten the result from it that you want, start to say, why am I doing this? Why do I keep making this same investment in time or money or energy or resource if it's not paying off? Why, when employees come to me and challenge me, do I react in the same way if it's not getting the result that I want? Why am I going home in the afternoons, tired from my day at work, but grumpy inside the house? What message am I trying to send to my family about not bothering me in the moment because I've had this bad day? And what benefit are you getting from that? Maybe a few moments on your own, but what consequences is it also bringing? How are your pattern thoughts and behaviors that exhibit subconscious negative beliefs and thoughts working through you in ways that are creating maybe a little bit of safety and comfort for you, but not creating the result that you want? There's all sorts of this material in the Fast Way. So if you want to learn more about how to bring this to yourself in personal coaching or to your teams through my Fast Way day training or team courses or the Fast Way self-guided video series, please reach out to me at ken@breakthroughleadershiptraining.com, and let's talk about how we can help you identify barriers and your team identify the barriers that are limiting them from success that you and they aren't necessarily seeing, so you can break through those. That's the name of the company, Breakthrough Leadership Training, and accomplish new results that you wouldn't even see as possible when those subconscious negative pattern thoughts and behaviors, those barriers, were working through you in ways that you're not aware of. Have a great day, and I hope we talk soon.